Hello everyone. So myself Partho Dash, Assistant Professor, Electrical Engineering Department, JS College of Engineering. So today we are going to do the transformer phasor diagram and its equivalent circuit diagram. So after completion of this class, we are able to understand uh, how the phasor diagrams of transformer without load and with load we can draw, and from that drawing how can we can understand what is the characteristics of the transformer with the different types of loads. So as what is the importance of this study? So the study's importance is that uh, in real life, so there are different types of loads are available. The nature of the load may be uh, resistive, maybe inductive, maybe capacitive. So different types of loads may available in the market. So that can be connected with the transformer. So with the different kinds of loads connected to the transformer, so the characteristics of the transformer change with the different types of loads. So that thing we have to know um, how to draw the phasor diagrams and equivalent circuit diagrams, and what are the properties and what is the phenomena that are going on in the transformer when it is connected with load, or and the load may vary with resistive load, inductive load, capacitive load. Different loads may appear over there. So after completion of this class, we are able to understand those components. So what we're going to do today, so these are the contents. So it is told that introduction to load and no load with lagging and leading power factor. So this is the number point of number one. Different types of leakage flux and steps to minimize the leakage fluxes. So these are the things, and at the end there are the references. Okay, coming to the first point. Okay. So here uh, we have considered a single phase transformer, um, and as you can see in the diagram, so there is a transformer diagram where we can see there are two windings, primary and secondary. And in the primary and secondary we have N1 and N2 number of turns, and due to that there is a generation of E1 and E2 EMF. And as you can see in the primary side, we have given a supply voltage V1, and due to that a current is flowing I0 or I naught, whatever we can say. And when this current I naught is flowing through the primary winding of the transformer, and due to that a flux is generated, that is namely phi over here, and that is flowing through the whole core of the transformer. And due to that interaction between the coils and the flux, there is a new generation E1 and E2. And in the secondary side, as you can see over here, there is no load disconnected, so you can say that this transformer is at no load. Now when transformer is at no load, at that time if we draw the phasor diagram, then the phasor diagram will be like this. So now I am going to tell you how to draw the phasor diagram. So to understand that one, you just follow my pointer. So what are the components? So first components, what are the components? AC components are present over here that we have to identify, and those components we have to uh, that components you have to plot over here. So which components you have to plot over here? So first see, there is a V1 supply voltage, and due to that there is current is flowing. There is I0, that is also a component. And when this current is flowing, due to that the flux is generated phi, that is also a component. And then the flux are cutted, and due to that two components are generated, E1 and E2. Those are two components. And again, you can say that at the terminal there is a voltage V2, though it is not mentioned over there, so we can assume that one. So at the terminal there is a voltage V2, that is the terminal voltage, so you can assume those components. So now we are going to draw. So if we have different AC components in with us, so and we have to draw all the components in a phasor diagram. So first we need a reference line, and with respect to that reference line we have to draw the other components. So first, for our easy understanding, here we have taken phi as a reference line. Why we have phi taken as a reference line? It has relation with the primary side and secondary side, so we will very easily draw the other components with respect to this phi. So first phi is there, we have drawn as a horizontal line. Follow my pointer. So this is the phi line, there is horizontal line, and now with respect to this phi, over this phi line we have drawn this Im. Im is the magnetizing flux. So magnetizing flux means the amount of flux for which the flux is generated. So actually, um, in case of practical transformer, so whatever supply current is present over there, that can be assumed of the addition of two current. What are the conditions? That means whatever current is coming from the supply, it is utilized for the two purposes. What are the purposes? The first purpose, it is utilized for the flux generation in the core area, and the least amount of current is actually absorbed in the resistive property present in the copper of the primary copper winding of the primary side. So we can say that whatever current is there, whole current is not utilizing for the flux generation. Some amount of current is absorbed in the um, copper winding resistive property, so it is lost over there, and rest amount of current is utilized for the flux generation. So here the amount of current that is lost, actually we cannot utilize that amount current, it is denoted by IC. Okay, so now we have to think that this I0 current, that is the total current coming from the source, it has two components. What are the components? IM, that is the magnetizing component, IC is the loss component. So as you can see over the phi axis we have drawn this Im. Over, follow my pointer, this is the phi axis. Over this phi axis we have drawn this Im, because Im is a reason and its result is the phi, so both are in the same axis. Now we have drawn this V1 90-degree lead from this phi, or we should say Im. Why? The reason behind is that when flux is generated, when there is a coil means is the inductive property. In case of inductive property, we know that the angle between current and voltage is 90 degree. So we can say that in case of, we know that in case of inductive coil, from current voltage is lead by an angle 90 degree. So that's why, this is the reason we have drawn this V leading by an angle 90 degree from this Im. Clear? Again, once again I am telling you that from this current Im we have drawn this V 90-degree leading, as we are assuming that this Im is totally responsible for the flux generation, and flux is generated in the inductive coil, so inductive property is there. An inductive property, we know that the angle between voltage and current is 90 degree, correct? So that's why we have drawn over there. Now the next component, IC. See why we have drawn IC over here. See, IC is the current passing through the resistive property of the coil, and we know that in case of resistance, when some voltage is applied to the resistance, and due to that when some current is flowing through the resistance, so that voltage and their resistance has no phase difference. They may have the amplitude difference, but they are in the same phase, they doesn't have any phase difference. So this voltage and the resistive current both are in the same axis, they have no phase difference. That's why we have to draw this IC current over the V1 axis. Clear? So IC current, as it is a resistive current, that's why it is drawn over the V1 axis. Im is the magnetizing current that is drawn 90 degree lag behind from the voltage. Okay, clear? And so what is the total current? Total current is the summation, vector summation of this resistive current and inductive current. That's why, see what we have drawn, there is a vector summation in between this IC and Im. So we have drawn this vector summation, that is I naught. Clear? And from this magnetizing current, there is a 90-degree shipment. Due to 90-degree shipment, we have drawn this induced EMF. induced EMF from the we know that from the supply voltage induced components are 180 degree apart, so that's why this V1 and this angle is 90 degree, and this E1 and E2 we have drawn two lines over here, like basically both are on the same axis, because they are in the same phase, both are induced EMF. Now the point is, which one is going? We have to, if the length of the E1 is smaller, E2 is higher, or E2 E1 is higher, E2 is lower. So it depends actually upon the which kind of transformer we are assuming. Say we are assuming a step up transformer. Step up means in the secondary side voltage is going to be increased. So we can say that in that case E2 will be higher from E1, as we can see in the diagram. And if we think the reverse case, step down transformer, then we have to think of a step down means in the secondary side the voltage is going to decrease from the primary side. So that's why at that time we have to what we do, E1 length will be higher and E2 length will be smaller. So like this way the phasor diagram of this transformer we can draw. Okay. Yes, this is a very important point. So transformer on load assuming no voltage drop in the winding. So now if we think that what we are assuming till right now, before this slide, that we have assuming that in the winding we have some resistance, and due to that there are some losses, and due to that losses we have um, some voltage drops are appearing. Now if we are assuming that no voltage drops are appearing, so what will happen? Whatever voltage we have given supply, that will reach to the secondary side. So we can see, just see here the E1 is equal to E2 as there is no drop, and it is 1:1 transformer. We can see both length are same, and E2 is equal to V2 terminal voltage, and you can see that secondary side, if secondary side is shorted, then what will happen? So see, in the secondary side there is circulation current, and due to that there is a mutual induction effect in the primary side, and due to that we are assuming that there is a current flowing I2 bar in the primary side. So in the primary side, what is the total current? See, as you follow my pointer in the diagram, this is I0 plus I2 bar. This is the total amount of current flowing through the transformer. So now we have to draw the phasor scheme of this two current. So as we can see over here, this is the I naught current, this is the I2 bar current. So summation of these two current is this one, I1 current. So at this time when the secondary side is shorted, um, complete its circuit, so at that time though this amount of current is actually flowing in the uh, primary cycle. Now we are going to the main part of this topic, that is the transformer on load. Mm, and assuming the voltage drop in the winding. Here we are assuming transformer on load, but assuming no voltage drop in the winding. Okay. Yes, this is the diagram. So first see the left hand side diagram. So just visualize one thing, if you follow my pointer, that V1 supply is given, due to that one I1 current is flowing, due to this I1 current a flux is generated, that flux is given a name, and I phi naught, and due to that phi naught there is a EMF generation E1 in the primary side, E2 in the secondary side, and as you can see in the diagram, it is a step up transformer. In the primary the number of turns are less, in the secondary the number of turns are higher, and in the secondary side a load is connected, and as the load is connected, so secondary side is a closed loop, and due to that a current is flowing I2 through the coil, and due to that there is flux generation phi 2, so there is a resultant flux will flow through the transformer, that we have to find out how, and what is the value of that amount of flux or current or voltage appearing across terminals, and this is V to the terminal voltage appearing in the transformer. Okay, see, if we have understand the previous phasor diagram, then we can very easily understand this transformer on load phasor diagram. It is very interesting and important topic for all the electrical engineers, that we have to understand this phasor diagram, and Once we can understand this phasor diagram, it will be very helpful to understand the phasor diagram in case of three-phase induction motor. Okay, so in three-phase induction motor, when it is at stationary condition, so at that time whatever is the phasor diagram, the same phasor diagram is appearing in the single phase transformer, because we can think of that in a three-phase induction motor when it is not running. So stator and rotor, there are both sides, there are windings are present. So we can think of both sides there as a winding. So it is a static device, no portion, no part is rotating. So it is acting as a transformer. So this particular phasor diagrams are applicable for induction motor when it is not at running condition. Okay, so we have to very carefully understand what is this one. Now, as I have previously said that the load may be of different types: resistive, inductive, and capacitive. So in case of resistive load, we can say that it is at unity power factor, and in case of inductive load, you can say that it is a lagging power factor, capacitive it is a leading power factor, or it may happen not only not pure R, pure L, PLC, not that it may happen that RL, RC, different types of loads may available in the market. That's why we should rather say that it is at unity power factor, it is at lagging power factor, because when we combine R and L, it is at lagging power factor. When we combine R and C, it is at leading power factor. So different combination may appear over there. So we can say that it is at unity power factor. The type of load is unity power factor load, lagging power factor load, leading power factor load. So for these three types of load, we are going to see what are the different phasor diagrams we have. So if we just follow this particular diagram, so if we once we will understand this unity power factor load phasor diagram, we there is a very little change in the unity lagging power factor and leading power factor. So my students, you have to understand right now that unity power factor load phasor diagram, if you once you understand this one, other two will be very easy to understand. So now we are going to start. So follow my pointer. My pointer is showing how this phasor diagram is developed. So first thing, as we have done previously, that to draw any phasor diagram, what we have to take, we have to take a phasor reference line. That's why this phi is there. There is a reference line, correct? Now over this phi line, what we have magnetizing current IM. Previously we have shown, and there is this line is the V1, as previously we have shown. Just follow my pointer, just look at my pointer, you will be able to understand. So previously we have drawn this V1 over here. What is the reason? Because this there is a magnetizing current over the axis of this phi, and this from this magnetizing current, voltage always leads by an angle 90 degrees. That's why there is a V1 supply voltage, and over the supply voltage we have the loss current or the resistive current that we have given their name there, IC. And the resultant of this two current, actually we have given a name. What we have given a name? This I0, I naught current. So I naught is current is actually information of the magnetizing current, and the resistive current or the loss current, whatever we say, what full current. So different books mention different names for this current. So whatever name you can remember, you can remember. So up to this one. Next, E1, E2, okay, as it is a step up transformer in the diagram we have seen. That's why the length of E1 is this one and the length of E2 is this one. Okay, now secondary side is connected with the load. So when it is connected with the load, so some current will flow. So this current we have drawn over here, and see, on the axis of this I2 we have drawn this V2. Why? Because we had taken that unity power factor, and when the unity power factor appears, when there is a only resistive load, and in case of resistive load, we know that there is no angle between voltage and current. So that's why here we have, see, we it doesn't have any angle between secondary side voltage and secondary side current. Both are on the same axis, correct? That's why we have drawn. Now in the secondary coil, transformer coil, it is a copper coil, it is not ideal one, it is a practical one. So it has some resistive property, it has some inductive property, as we have seen in the primary side also. It has some resistive property, it has some inductive property. So when the current is flowing through this resistive property, there will be a voltage drop. So what will be the amount of voltage drop? Say we have assumed that in the secondary side the amount of resistance in the copper winding is R2. So and the current flowing through the copper winding is I2. So what is the total voltage drop? I2 into R2. See that thing we have drawn over here on the same axis of V2, because this is a voltage and I2 R2 is a voltage component, and we know that the voltage component always we have to draw over the voltage component. So this is the V2 line, and over that we have drawn this the I2 R2. Next component X2. This is the inductive component, reactive component. So when this I2 current is flowing through this X2, so there will be again drop I2 and X2. Now we can say that as it is an inductive property, so this inductive property will lead from the current by an angle 90 degree. So this is the I2 current axis, and from there this inductive voltage will lead by an angle 90 degree. That's why it is rotating in the anti-clockwise direction. If it is going this side, then it is a lagging case. It is, as it is a leading case, that's why in this side we have drawn. So from there, from this node we have drawn this I2 and X2, and that's why when we have extended this one, it is joined over here. So this is the secondary side. So now we can say what is the secondary side voltage. So we can say that secondary side voltage is this V2 plus I2R2 plus I2X2. All of the vector components, the summation of this one and this. See this I2R2 and this X2X2 makes a triangle. If we make this dotted line, and this R2 X2 vector component is the Z2. So we can write down this one V2 bar and I2 Z2 bar is equal to E2 bar, that is the secondary side total EMF induced in the system. Now again returning to the primary side. Why we have to return to the primary side? So just think, there is a primary side, we have given supply to the primary side, that's why there is a current flow. Due to that kind of flux is flowing through the whole core of the system, and when the flux is flowing, it is induced to EMF in the primary and the secondary side. Now in the secondary side there is a load connected. The secondary side is a closed loop. So here the current is flowing, that we have given a name I2, and when we know the through the coil when current is flowing, it is generating some flux. So initially this primary side is generating flux. Now when load is connected to the secondary side, it's also generating some flux, and due to that flux, here in the primary side there is some flux cutting. Due to that there is some current generation. So this phenomenon is actually known as the mutual induction, and due to that in the primary side there is a current generation, that is here, follow my pointer, that is I2 bar. So the induction effect always phase shift of 180 degree. That's why from this I2 axis this phase shifted 180 degree, and this I2 bar is over here. Now when this I2 bar is current is flowing through the coil of the primary side, so primary coil side also has some resistive property, some inductive property. So we have to consider the what is the voltage drops are appearing due to this particular amount of current passing through the primary coil. So now we are thinking that I2 bar current is now this one. Uh, so we can say that, so what is the total resultant current present over here? So total resultant current of this one too, this is this, and this is the primary current already flowing, this is the induction effect current I2 bar. So what is the resultant current? So we can draw a vector summation, so that is I1. So now in the primary side we can say this amount current is flowing, and due to that current what is the voltage drops are appearing. As in the primary side we have a resistance, say that resistance is R1, we have a reactance, say that reactance is X1. So see here this component, follow my pointer, this is the R1 I1 R1 axis. So why we have drawn like this? We have drawn like this in parallel with this one, because this is a resistive component, resistive voltage and current, they doesn't have any angle in between them. But we cannot draw over this I1 axis, because as it is a current and I1 R1 is the voltage. But we cannot make any angle in between them. That's why we have drawn parallel to this I1, this I1 R1 axis. Correct? Now the next component I1 X1, where we can draw this I1 and X1. So this I1 and X1 axis is shifted 90-degree lead from this I1. So this is the inductive component. So we know that inductive voltage is always lead from the current by an angle 90-degree. So from this axis we have shifted this by an angle 90-degree. So that's why there. So it is there. From there, if we draw a line joining the center, so it will give us the primary side voltage, that is the V1. Okay, and now see these dotted lines, as we have seen the secondary side, this R1 I1 R1 and I1 X1 will make a impedance component, that is the I1 Z1. So this is all about the phasor diagram of unity power factor. Now we will go for the next slide and we will say that almost everything is the same, so little things are changing due to the nature of the load. So coming to the next one, see phi is there, V is there, V1 is there, I0 is there, I1 is there, I2 bar is there, E1, E2 is there. So what is the change? There is a change between I2 and V2, as we can say that this is a lagging power factor, and we cannot say that right now that this is a pure inductive coil. So if we can say this is a pure inductive coil, then the angle between V2 and I2 should be 90-degree, but it doesn't know. So maybe this is RL, so the angle should be less than 90-degree. So for simplicity of the diagram, we have assumed that there is an angle phi 2, that is the load angle. So there is a I2 we have drawn, and from there we have shifted due to the nature. Very important, this is the place where you have to understand other remaining components will remain the same. So what is the change from the unity power factor? No longer this V2 is on the same axis of I2. It is shifted by an angle phi 2. This phi 2 is the load angle. And again, same procedure we have maintained to draw. Over the V2 we have drawn the I2 R2 parallel to this I2 line. Then we have drawn the I2 X2 leading by an angle 90-degree from this I2 axis. So like this way we have drawn this one, and the primary side will remain the same. From with this I1 axis we have drawn parallel to this I1 R1 90-degree shifted leading this I1 X1, and this V1 is joining to the center of the um, phasor diagram. Now coming to the leading, when we are discussing our leading, see there the position of I2 and V2 is going to be changed. Okay, see here in leading power factor, see the current is leading from the voltage. In the previous one we have seen that current is lagging from the voltage. Here we have seen that from the I2 current, V2 is here, but in this case this V2 is there. So again the same method we have followed, as it is a leading power factor. From I2 V2 is leading, and from over the V2 we have drawn the secondary voltage component I2 R2 parallel to this I2, and then we have drawn this line. See there is a 90 angle we have drawn, primary side will remain same. Okay, so these are the three types of phasor diagram, very important for your syllabus and for your understanding. Now coming to the next part. Okay, this is the equivalent circuit of a transformer. This is basically, this is the primary side where no load is connected. This is known as the no load component. So from the beginning I am telling you the one thing, that there is a supply voltage we are given to the primary side. Due to that a current is flowing, that is I naught, and that I naught current is utilized for the two purposes. So as we can see over here, there are two purposes are there. One is Im, which is going through that X0, that is actually generating the flux, and IC is the current flowing through the resistive property of the winding, that is actually we are not getting utilized. So this is the thing, and as the name suggests, Im is the magnetizing component and IC is the active component, the loss component. Okay, so coming to the next part. Okay, equivalent circuit parameters refer to the primary and secondary side respectively. So here we can see that this is the full equivalent circuit diagram. So left hand side representing the primary side, and right hand side representing the secondary side. So here we can see that this R0 and X0 in the diagram, follow my pointer, this R0 X0 is representing the no load component, no load resistance and no load reactance of the system. And so initially, just if we think that V1 supply is given due to, so initially don't think that this component R1 X1 is present over there, correct? So don't think that this one is not present. So V1 is present due to this I1 current is flowing, and when this I1 current is flowing, it has two component IC and IM, and this due to this IM there is a flux generation phi. That flux is cutted by these two winding, that's why there is E1 and E2 generation. And in the secondary side load is connected, so secondary is a closed loop, so I2 current is flowing. Due to that, the presence of this R2 and X2 can be realized in the secondary side. And when this current is flowing in the secondary side, it is generating some flux, and that flux is cutted by the primary winding, and there is a current flow, that is the I2 bar. And now when this I2 bar is flowing through the uh, coil of the primary side, it will flow through the resistive and inductive property of the system. To represent that, we have drawn this component. So if this secondary side is not present, that means the load is not present, we are not we will not get this R1 X1 presence in the system. When on the when we will get the presence of this R1 X1, when the load is connected, when the induction effect of I2 current is will fall over this primary side, the I2 induction effect is I2 bar. So then only we can find out this resistance of R1 and X1 in the primary side. Okay, so these are the parameters, actually formulas we have described. And yes, it is one important thing that we have referred transferring the secondary parameter to the primary side. See, if we think that two parameters, two circuits are not connected electrically by, or it is connected by magnetic manner, so then we cannot calculate any we cannot do any mathematical calculation. To do any mathematical calculation, we have to transfer the primary to the secondary or secondary to the primary, so that both are in the same platform, so we can use some mathematical calculation to resolve, to simplify the circuit. So that's why we can refer the secondary side of the system to the primary side. And there is a an equation that you can see over here. Okay, so and again it is referring the equivalent circuit refer to the secondary side. Once we can refer secondary to the primary, and once we can refer primary to the secondary. So these are the diagram we have given over here. So these are the equations you just follow, and this is the method of simplification. So when we are referring, so all the series components will going to be add, all the resistance is going to be add, all the reactance is going to be add. See, in this way, that's why we can simplify the whole circuit, or we can find out the equivalent impedance of the circuit. Okay, okay, see at the end, this is the approximate equivalent circuit to calculate different mathematical calculation. Okay, so this is the method we can apply for the simplification of the circuit. Okay, so this is the conclusion. So phasor diagram for different load condition we have explained, equivalent, also equivalent circuit, and how to refer to the primary and secondary, and how we can simplify and make a simple series loop, that we have also calculated, and those are the references for making this particular PPT for you. Okay, so thank you.